What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, the Lo-Fi Horror Guy. Welcome to another episode of the Lo-Fi Horror Guys Growing On You live. Today, I am so excited. I'm going to be having on my dude Rob of Rust and Die Alone. I cannot wait. We're going to be digging into all of this very cool stuff. This episode and this season is sponsored by Grand Rapids, Michigan's own Vertigo Music. Go check them out. I have a giveaway going on right now that is too sick to miss out. Check out my page for that. Let's get my dude Rob linked in here and get this bad boy rolling. Let's see. Hopefully everybody's doing good on this nice Sunday here. Get this bad boy going. Bravo! What's
up, brother?
Dude?
How you
God
doing? How you
damn
doing?
it. Man, what a long time coming. You know what I'm saying, dude?
Oh, it's been a
so
minute.
sick. How's it going today, man? How you doing?
Bro, I'm good. I'm good. Fucking got nose dropped by my daughter, so my nose is a little sore, but we're all good.
You say you got what? A nose job?
No, my kid fucking woke me up this morning. Headbutt right to the nose. That 6 a.m. wake up.
Oh man, it's one of those things where it's like, every once in a while it's just destiny on how your day is going to go, just off the wake up.
Oh yeah, couldn't ask for a better wake up this morning.
Nice. Well, awesome, dude. Look, here on Growing On You Live, my man, I've got an intro question. The remainder of the interview is about you and your craft, your band, your work. And then, at the very end here, we're going to be digging into a brand new track from Russ that you're going to be sharing with us, dude, which I'm fucking excited for. I cannot wait.
She's all queued up, ready to go.
Oh, my Lord. Okay. All right. So I'm going to try my best not speeding through all this so we can get to that part, because I myself, being a fan of the band, I'm very excited for that.
Thank you, my dude. Thank you.
Hell yeah. All right. Let me ask you first off, through the interview here, we're going to talk some horror movies. We're going to talk some music, some instruments, different things of that sorts. But first of all, let me ask you, if we were making a horror movie and I said, Rob, I need you to have, you need to come up with the villain for this movie. What kind of horror movie would we make? Are we going to do like a werewolf, a vampire, a zombie movie? What kind of horror movie would we be making, my dude?
I would do so anyone that knows me knows I'm huge into plague doctors, the occult, all kinds of weird, satanic, trippy shit. So it would definitely be a plague doctor type situation.
Oh, okay.
That's a villain,
okay.
I think there's not enough about the plague doctor stuff. I did see a trailer for a movie recently called The Reckoning that actually looks pretty dope, and it's got a plague doctor type shit in it. So
yes,
maybe. But yeah,
yes.
Or I'd go, you can't beat the slashers, so you probably go, some kind of slasher villain, some torture, some dude got tortured by some bullies or something, and then there we go.
Lose the
Can't
shit.
beat a slasher.
There he goes. Yeah. Nice. Especially a slasher done well. That's one thing that's always loved and appreciatted by fans. Is something that there's a little something new to it. You know what I'm saying? Something that adds to the overall well-being of a good slasher there.
Yeah, for real. They're the best. Yeah, I love them.
Totally. All right, I love that answer. Now we're gonna do a little bit more, but first I want to dig into a little bit, as far as kind of your musical background and interests, for you personally. As far as growing up, what were some songs or albums that kind of resonated with you early on? Things before even really having an interest in music that stuck out. And you're like, hey, what is this?
Oh my God, what a question. Well, growing up, music's always been in my house. So growing up, my dad was an 80s metalhead. My aunt, one of my favorite aunts, both my aunts, they were also huge metalheads. So I grew up 80s metal style. So I grew up, with Ozzy, Motley Crue, Black Sabbath, Skid Row, all that kind of stuff. So it's always been in the house. And then kind of as it developed, I always kept looking for, heavier stuff. So, oh my goodness, I had an uncle that got me into Slayer, Pantera, Testament, the thrash stuff, and then from there it just kind of nosed-dove. I kept looking for heavier and more obscure, and it got into. But growing up, my favorite, probably the record that hit me the hardest when I was growing up was Motley Crue, "Shout at the Devil."
Oh, nice.
That was my my aunt actually. So back in the day, my dad and my aunts, they used to record music videos on VHS tapes. So they would
Mm.
catch it on TV or whatever, record. So my aunt had this whole compiled fucking video. It had like Scorpions on it, Anvil was on it, like all these 80s metal. I was fucking phenomenal. Every time I go over there, that's all I'd watch. And my favorite video growing up was Too Young to Fall in Love by Motley Crue. And that band just
Sick.
stuck with me forever. And I still love that
Nice.
record. It's one of my favorite records ever. But
You
that
know,
kind
I love that. I love that you bring up the whole aspect of like recording videos and having different mixtapes and things like that. Was there ever a time where, you know, watching back on something you had discovered a band or saw something for the first time that you're like, hey, what the hell
Oh,
is this?
tons. Yeah, tons actually. Even like, through videos like that, I got into it. And then like that kind of carried over. Me and my brothers used to do it a lot too. So
Mm.
we had our own VHS tapes that we would record. So up here in Canada, Much Music had this thing called the Pepsi Power Hour. And that was like an hour where they would play like metal videos.
Oh,
So through
sick.
that, so we would literally just toss in a tape and hit record like every Friday at 11 p.m. or whatever. You fucking hit record. And then afterwards, you'd watch it. And out of that, that's where I got into Pantera. That's where I got into, we found a lot of stuff like, and then later on towards like the mid 90s when we really started doing it, that's how, Korn was on there and like that whole new metal wave kind of started up. So it was like the
Okay.
Deftones and Limp Bizkit, stuff like that on there. But then they'd play more obscure stuff like Coal Chamber and Fear Factory, Machine Head.
Whoa.
That's kind of how you really, because where I grew up, the small town I grew up in Alberta, they didn't really have much of a metal, like you had to watch stuff like that or like buy magazines or it's very old school way of doing it. It's not like now with the internet where you just search shit and you're like, oh, I want a band that sounds like this and you find it. Back then
Right.
you actually had to look for your music. So like you would buy records based on, what the label was, or you'd buy, oh, this guy's wearing that shirt in this picture. Let's check that out. Or like it was a
Yes.
very obscure way to find music. And like I remember in our little hometown, we were the first group of kids that had the first Slipknot record when it dropped because
Nice.
we caught a sampler in a magazine. There was a sampler that came out, and Eyeless was on that. So as soon as we
Oh,
heard that,
wow.
we were like,
Okay.
"What the fuck? We got to get this!" And we ordered it. We went to HMV, ordered it, and they were like, "What the hell?" Like I remember my mom paid like $45 for the CD, but like we had it. We were the only
God
kids that had
damn.
it. It was fucking
Wow.
yeah, like it was a very old school way of looking at stuff, kind of like, and that kind of founded like the hardcore root side of things too, right? Like that's how I found Hatebreed, and that's how I found Madball, Agnostic Front, a lot of that kind of shit. It all came from there.
Okay, okay. I love that. That's a you know, it's funny you bringing up Slipknot too, because I'm trying to think of where I initially heard them, but I remember specifically that's one of those CDs I had to go. It was like 45 minutes out of town. I'd been calling around to different FYEs here
Yep.
for whatever reason, and they had a store that was like 45 minutes an hour out that actually had it, and it was like I think 25 or like 30 some dollars for that first Slipknot CD, but it was like
Yeah.
I have it, you know, like holy shit, this is so cool. So it's funny that you mentioned that because like I'm thinking now, I'm like, where the fuck would I have even heard that? I'm gonna have to dig back a little bit and kind of look into that.
Yeah, there was
So,
well, there was a magazine out up here. There was a magazine out in Ottawa too. Like once we left Alberta and moved down to Ottawa with my mom, we kind of got into like the scene out here because we were like close to Toronto. So basically, Alberta was everything 5 years before. Like you know what I mean? Like they were like 5 years behind everything. So when we got to
oh, okay.
Toronto, we were like, these are our fucking people. Like everybody
Yeah.
like everybody knew what you were listening to, and it was cool because you would find bands together through mutual people. So you weren't like not necessarily the trendsetters, but you weren't the kids showing people music anymore. Now there's other people that would open up doors and be like, hey, have you heard this band? Hey, have you heard that band? And then it kind of spiraled down from there. And it was there was a lot of magazines that gave out free samplers, and you'd find a lot of bands at that time. And when we got to Toronto, there was a radio station in Ottawa. I think, if I remember correctly, it was XFM, I think it was called. And the XFM, they had they would play like Korn, and it was everything on the radio that you would hear throughout the day. So it'd be like Godsmack and stuff like that. Like it would, they started getting a little more progressively like good where you could still find some bands. And every Friday night they would have like an extreme metal. So then they would play like In Flames, and they would play like, so every, you'd find yourself
Oh
tuning into the
shit.
radio
Okay.
on Fridays now, so it was kind of, and then the internet was slowly starting to creep in at that point. So like mp3.com kind of started showing up in those bands, like right before MySpace and all that stuff. So it was really like, yeah, you actually had to like look for music. It was really hard to find bands. If you liked underground music, it was hard to find, fucking hard. And if you could buy it, good luck finding it, because it was so expensive. You'd have to order everything in. It was so hard to get. Like, oh my goodness, that was crazy.
Okay.
It was a crazy time.
It's funny too, as far as like thinking back on some of those times, like kind of pre, like internet and different things. Because I remember there'd be like certain guys like in the hard. I guess it wasn't so much at first like a hardcore, a community as it was, just kind of metal and thrash and punk, which eventually kind of turned into people, discovering different things like East Coast, New York hardcore and different things like that. But I can remember there was always a couple of kids that they would just have flash drives and like just terabytes full of like all this music and all of this stuff that like I would scour stores and any sort of like website that I could find something, and I was like, motherfucker, how do you have all this stuff, man? Like I was always a dummy like like with technology, so I wasn't on LimeWire scouring different things like that. Like I was actually trying to like look for the CDs and shit. I'm like, man, fuck you.
Oh fuck, I'd go over to my friend. Like, I didn't have a computer. Like, I didn't get a computer until I was fucking, early 20s before I got a computer. So I would just go to my friend's house and just, hey, what are you doing? You got free internet? Yeah, absolutely. And then I would just fucking LimeWire everything. I'd have a list of bands, and I'd fucking go over there, and I would just be like, yo, I'm crashing on your couch tonight. I would stay up all night and just burn CDs. That was it. I'd have a pack of CDs with me, and I would just burn fucking CDs. That way I always had something to listen, because you couldn't find half of the shit. And if you could find it, it was so expensive, you couldn't get it anyways, because it was all imports.
Yeah, okay. Do you remember a band called Horse the Band?
I do. I remember Horse the Band, the Pizza album.
Dude, that has to be, I think their album, I think it was their first for a full album. It was called Our Borlax. It had like Cutsman and all that shit on it. I feel like that's one of the earlier things that I remember actually buying from like an offline website that they had to send it out, and it was way too fucking expensive to where I would paid way too much for.
Oh yeah, it was outrageous. It was
Bunnies. Yes.
Bunny.
Yes. Yeah, that was one of the tracks on the album there. Yeah.
Thanks to LimeWire. We all got viruses thanks to LimeWire.
So where did your interest transition as far as, being a fan and then, starting to play, whether it was guitar? Because I know you play guitar in a band that we'll dig into here.
I actually started playing drums. That was my first thing. My old man got me
really?
Drums. I was 7. My old man got me a set of drums, and I would just practice the shit out of those. That was like my favorite thing in the world. I was like, oh my God. I always wanted to play drums, and he hooked me up, and so yeah, me and my brothers learned how to play drums on that little kit, and then we moved a lot because my old man was in the oil patch, so we moved a lot. So the drums kind of stayed behind. So it was a few years again before I was able to pick something up, and we ended up. My parents had one of their friends come and stay with us, and he had a guitar, and he would show me little things. Like at the time, it was like Rammstein's Du Hast. He was like, check this shit out. Like you watch it, and you're like, what the fuck? That's so sick. And you're like, but in reality, I mean, now it's fuck all. But like at the time, you're like, whoa, I want to play that. So like that was literally the first lick I ever learned, and then he introduced me to tab. So once I started figuring out what tab was, the internet didn't exist. You didn't have internet videos of tutorials and shit. So a lot of the stuff, like my brother Rick and I, we learned how to play by ear. So we never took lessons. We never took nothing. We would listen to a song for 5 fucking hours straight until we figured out the song. It was wild, like, and then tab. So then, you could get some guitar tabs here and there for some things. So we kind of taught ourselves that way on how to so a lot of early Metallica stuff and whatever is really what kind of got us started anyways. But yeah, that was, And then I got a guitar when I was in high school, and it was a purple Washburn with a like a pearl white glossy pick guard.
Oh
Ugliest
shit.
fucking guitar ever. It was so ugly, but it was sick. And right around that time, that's when metalcore started becoming a thing. So,
Yeah.
I mean, Killswitch Engage, Chimera, bands like that, and those are two of my favorite bands still. I mean, they're the reasons I started playing guitar and kept playing guitar because I wanted to learn how to squeal. That was literally why I started playing guitar. I was like, I want to learn how to squeal. That was it. And then I learned how to squeal, and then I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll try this riff thing, and then it just kind of worked out.
I mean, what was the first song that you ended up like actually playing along with that you had to kind of like work at, and maybe even included a squeal or two in?
The first actual song that I had to put a song, I want to say it was Killswitch Engage, and it was either Life to Lifeless or Rise Inside.
Oh, okay, okay,
Self Alive or Just Breathing. That's
nice,
like my
nice,
favorite record. That's my favorite record of all time.
dude. Fixation on the Darkness.
Oh man, when I learned how to play that song, I was like, I nailed this shit. As
Yeah.
soon as I figured out those squeals, I was like, I'm good. I don't need to learn nothing else now. I'm good.
You like call your friends like, "Hey, I figured it out," and all you do is like, "Ooh," like,
Oh yeah, that was it.
no,
And
there's
then
more of
my
a song.
brother,
No, that's it. That's all you need to know.
me and my brother I'd go visit my brother, and Rick would be like, "Hey, I learned this song," and he would show me like some wild fucking riff that he found. Then and then him and I just started playing guitar together, and it kind of worked out. And yeah, we just always been musical, always. And then bass, I just fell into it. That was just an accident.
Oh, okay. Okay, got you. So as
But
far as we're gonna dig into to Rust. I mean, that was kind of how we discovered each other and became friends over here too, and in contact and such. But before that, tell me about some of your earlier bands, some of your earlier memories as far as first times recording, writing songs with other people, and playing your first show. What are some memories that come along with some of that stuff?
oh my goodness. So I actually lived up north here for a bit years ago. Fuck, I would have been 20. So it was like 15, 16 years ago. I lived up north for a bit, and I joined this metalcore band. Their name was Satrium. And they were just a local band. I don't think anything ever really came out of them. I'm still friends with a couple of the guys, but they yeah, so I started playing guitar with them, and that was my first band ever. And I just went over there,
Okay.
and my tryout was playing Killswitch songs. They were like, "Oh, can
Oh
you play
shit.
stuff
Okay.
like this?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And then I would just rip, and they were like, "All right, cool, let's go." So my first show ever with them was at a church, and it was in the middle of fucking nowhere. And I didn't have a backup guitar; I just had my one guitar. And first song, first fucking ring out, broke three strings. So I literally, like, my first show ever, I was nervous as fuck. Just broke three strings, and I was just standing there. I was like, all right, I'm over it. This is the worst. So I literally mimicked my way, like, through the fucking set, because I was like, these motherfuckers don't know anyway. Like, 5 people here, they don't know. So I just kept fucking playing and ripping and whatever. And then,
Oh my
yeah, then it just
God.
started, yeah. So I wrote a bunch of songs with them, and they ended up making a record, but it never got dropped. I know, right? What a wild first show. Like, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. It's fucking brutal.
Right. Right. Oh my Lord. I mean, the only comparable thing I guess I could say from like musician wise, me being a drummer would be like I go to hit the snare for the very first time and like the main drum that you hit the fucking skin breaks. Like you can't do anything past breaking three strings on a fucking guitar. Like, were you the
No,
only
no,
guitarist
it
in this
was
band?
no. There was two of us, thank fuck. Because if there would have just been me, like, the show was over. Like, yeah, no,
Holy
it
fuck.
was,
That's so
yeah,
funny.
it was bad. It was really bad. Then another time, I fucking the infamous, do the guitar swing. Did the guitar swing, and then when it came back down, my strap broke. So the guitar didn't launch, so I was good. But when it came back around, the strap broke. So I ended up playing the rest of the set. I sat down on the corner of the stage and finished the set. It was fucking Yeah, it was pretty embarrassing. I've had some pretty bad shows.
Oh my God, dude. You know what's so funny too is like thinking back on those times, like that's the end of the world. Like that is the fucking you're not gonna make up from that. There's nothing ever that's gonna, like bring it back. And it's like now that you think back on it, it's like that was literally nothing. I mean, it was not that big of a deal. And then it's funny too, thinking back on like how many church shows there were back in the day. Like, why the fuck
So
were
many.
all of
Oh
these
yeah.
bands playing at churches? And the majority of them, like, probably shouldn't have been playing at churches.
No, no, no. Yeah, no, we played with a black metal band at a church. It was the greatest fucking thing. I was like, oh
Sick.
wow, these motherfuckers dressed like wolves worshiping Satan and we're sitting in a church. It was fucking awesome.
Oh my God,
Oh
that would
yeah,
be that's insane. I don't think I've ever seen that, but I
oh,
uh I feel like
it
I
was,
need to make that happen in a band of my own or some shit. Just fucking
the
black metal and
local
dressed up as
scenes.
wolves.
Oh, dude, it was wild, man. There was a band called Woven Ancestry. It was crazy. Yeah, it was wild.
That was really a thing?
Oh yeah, it's really a thing, really a band. Yeah,
Oh
I'll
my
link I'll
God.
link you their I'll link you their video after. You'll love it. It's fucking hilarious. It's so funny.
Dude, that is so sick. Oh my
There's
lord. So
nothing
we're
in
we're
there's
talking
nothing in northern Canada with fucking black metal. There's no need for it at all.
God, that rules. That's awesome. I love it. I need some I'm gonna need some of that in my life, so I'm gonna need to check out
Oh
those
yeah,
videos there.
I'll hook you up.
So we're talking first video, or we're talking first shows and different things like that. Tell us about as far as how Rust came together and the band and your first show playing with a band that I've played with in my band Hostage. Tell us about that.
The boys.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Rust literally Rust was a band called Discover Sun prior to Rust, and they had gone through some member changes. Rick had joined them, and they were kind of, I guess their bass player had kind of left. So Rick called me and he was like, "Hey, I'm doing this thing. Do you want to come try out?" And I was like, "No, I'm okay. I don't want to play bass. Like, I have no desire to play bass." And he was like, "Well, please." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I don't think so." And he's like, "All right, dude, come on. Like, don't be a dick. Let's go." And I was like, "No." He's like, "Here, let me send you a song." I'm like, "All right, cool." So he sent me a song, and it was like the very rough demo version of Neglect. And I called him back, and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, let's go. Like, I'll figure this out. I'll find a way.
Totally.
Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna figure this out." And that's literally how, yeah. So that's how that got jump started, and then we started practicing together, and it just worked out. And I joined 2 weeks before the first show.
Mm.
It was literally like it was fucking fast. So Rick came over. We just spent a day going over the songs, just practiced the shit out of them, got them all down, and then yeah, we played our first show with Hostage, and that show was our first show. It was Born Without Hope, Hostage, us. I can't remember who else was there. There was a bunch of bands there.
Were you playing with Born Without Hope at the time then,
No, I
or no?
wasn't. No, that was actually the first time I'd ever met those guys.
Okay.
Rick knew them from taking pictures, but that was the first time I'd ever met them. And
Okay.
then yeah, so our first show, yeah. So the Hostage boys were there, and we actually didn't get to play. I didn't get to watch Hostage or Born Without Hope that night because the show, it was right in the middle of the playoffs, and the show ran till like fucking 2 in the morning or something crazy. I remember the guy saying, and so
What?
like yeah, and it was like a fucking Wednesday night. Like it was wild. We were like, everybody had to work the next day, so like we stayed as long as we could, and then we were like bro, we gotta go. Like my house was
Damn.
like my house was a good 45 minutes from the venue, so I was like, boys, like I can't stay, I gotta go. So
Yeah.
yeah, we all kind of, but that was our first ever show, and then we followed that show up with Backtrack. So we got to play Backtrack's last Toronto show, and that was our second show.
Whoa,
And
what the fuck? Really?
yeah, it was fucking like the most surreal thing ever. Like we played that one show, and then Rick was taking pictures, and he ended up getting hooked up with one of the promoters in Toronto, and that guy was like, "Hey, we need a hardcore band for Backtrack. Do you guys want to play it?" So Rick, without question, was like, duh." Like,
Yeah.
really? So it was us, Born Without Hope, on that one too, and I remember that's where I got more acquainted with the Born Without Hope guys, and then that eventually led to me jumping on with them too. But yeah, that Backtrack show really did a lot for our band. Like it really, a lot of people started to catch on and pay attention after that, and then we kept getting shows. Our homie Sally hooked it up, and like she's been incredible for this band. She's done more for this band than fuck pretty much anybody else, and like a lot of shows came our way like from being with her, and she's definitely helped us out a lot. And
Damn. Okay, that rules. Holy shit.
yeah, and then we, eventually everything kind of started calming down, and we just kept putting out new music, more music, more music, and here we are, ready to go back and start playing shows again, hopefully.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I love that. So I can say as far as like my introduction was right around, it had to have been 2019 and your guys' Time's Up EP. And that was the first thing that had featured Tommy, correct? As
Yeah,
vocals.
yeah, that was the first thing Tommy
Okay.
did.
Tell us about writing that EP, kind of the process with that. And did you have some changes as far as, because was Ryan the initial vocalist?
Yeah, he
Am I
was.
getting
Yeah.
that wrong? Okay.
No, he was. Yeah.
A little bit of the change as far as that came with having Tommy on, and what you guys wanted to bring to the table with this new EP.
So basically, the Times Up was really, it was a very strange time for the band, because Ryan was about to they were about to have their second kid, and Ryan was more or less kind of like he couldn't commit the way that Rick and I were driving Rick and I wanted to do way more than what we were doing,
Mm-hmm.
and unfortunately not everybody could kind of commit to that, and we were getting a lot of good show offers. We were getting a lot of shows, offers to do some runs and stuff like that. So we really didn't want to pull back from that. And Ryan could really only commit part time, and he was good. Like, we're still friends. He's fucking awesome. I talked to him this morning. He's the best. But he ultimately, like, it wasn't what we needed
Sure. Okay.
to progress. And Tommy, shout out my boy Tommy Wood, my brother Tommy Wood. I love him. He's my boy. He we had actually played a show with his band World's Grasp, and
Oh, okay.
he was fucking. So if you get a chance, check them out. Sir, he's fucking awesome. Like
Oh yeah. Yeah, I dig the fuck out of them. They rule.
Oh yeah, they're amazing. So Tommy, we played a show with them, and it ended up I got acquainted with Tommy that way, and then Tommy and I just stayed friends, and him and I were looking towards doing something. We were going to do something completely different, but together. So, and then Ryan announced that he was going to leave Rust, so it was kind of a pretty simple transition. I just called Tommy up and I was like, "Do you want to be the vocalist for Rust?" And he was like, "Yeah." And then that was it. Like, it was pretty fast. Like not a whole lot of process ever, and it kind of worked out. We did some background checks on Tommy Wood. His,
Oh yeah.
his wifey is our homie Katie Hollow, who's one of the best tattoo artists in Ontario. She does all my tattooing. She's been doing it for 10 plus years, and she's like family to us. So it just kind of, with Tommy, Tommy just fits right into that family mold with us. Like it just, and then we were having some drummer issues. So, it's, that kind of, when we started writing Time's Up, it was kind of just Rick and I going back and forth on the computers. So
okay.
Rick basically, our whole writing process now is a lot more contributive. Like now that Tommy's like integrated, and our new drummer Matt's getting more integrated with our stuff, and we're kind of really starting to gel more as a four-piece. But prior to that, it was like Rick would write all the songs, he would bring them over, him and I would sit down, dissect them, re-record them, figure out anything that we thought, could be different or changed or whatever. We would kind of do that, send it to Tommy. Tommy would do his vocal stuff over it, send it back. Then we would go to the studio, and then everything would change. Like we would have like the shells and the skeletons done, like we'd be good, and then we would go into the studio, but everything would change. So no song, like listening to some of the demos, like I go back every once in a while and listen to them, and they're just fucking hilarious. Like what, like how it ended up compared to what it is, totally different. So with Time's
Okay.
Up, it was literally just me, Rick, and Tommy kind of fleshing all these songs out together. They were written pretty quick, and then we went to the studio, and that's when our drummer at the time had decided he couldn't continue with us.
Oh, okay.
So that kind of put that all into a spiral. So our boy Davis Maxwell, shout out Bell Tower, shout out Schoolhouse, and shout out Davis Maxwell. He's a fucking G. He played drums on Time's Up for us. He's the one that he's the one that did Time's Up for us and made that happen. He's the same guy that recorded the first Rust EP as well.
Oh, sweet.
So
Okay.
he's kind of, him and Nick, Schoolhouse Nick, are like, the fifth and sixth members of this band. Like, they're the ones that make our songs sound the way they sound. Like, between the two of them, they're fucking. But yeah, so Davis was lucky enough to do that, and then we did the Time's Up thing, and then it took a while for us to drop it. It just, for some reason, COVID hit, so we kind of sat on it for a bit, and then when we finally got it out, like, the reception to it was fucking massive. Like, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was like, what the fuck? And then, just everybody really seemed to dig it, so we were like, all right, cool. Like, let's fucking roll with that.
Yeah, no, that's sick. I mean, and I think we're gonna kind of get into it too, because I was just trying to think for sure when it was that I was introduced, and it must have been from maybe you had followed the page or something like that. I'm trying to think of how the fuck we initially connected. I know it was
you and
something
I,
over
you and
the
I
Child's Play
connected.
code, but
Yeah, so that happened. Well, you and I initially connected I mean, you had a really dope, I can't remember how I found you, but you're showing off some cool horse shit. And I was like, what the fuck? So I hit follow.
oh,
And then
okay.
that code thing happened. And then you and I started talking because you sent me the US code that wouldn't work here in Canada. So we were like, what the fuck?
Oh,
So then we started talking about just music and whatever in general. And
yeah, yeah,
then,
yeah.
then that just spiraled from there.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm fucking up because I still have more questions about the band here, and I'm bringing up fucking horror movies. Let me recant back a little bit here and fucking pull my reins on that a little bit. We're gonna dig into movies here. First, I need to ask about. So it was Father's Day 2020. You had some special guests for some gang vocals pop in for a cover of a Madball track. Tell us how that song came up and how the cover was selected, and the special guests that were included on the song.
So Madball is, to anyone not living under a rock, is like, they're one of my favorite bands of all time. And the way I write riffs, my whole approach to their, Hatebreed's the band that got me into hardcore. Madball is the one that solidified those roots.
Love
So
that.
they fucking, they're my band. No matter what, like, that band can do no wrong. So when the opportunity came up to do a cover, when we were talking about, so initially the four-way split with the homies Plead, the homies Depleted, fuck yeah. So Plead, Depleted, and Gall. Initially, the four-way split was supposed to be two new songs from each band, and then each band was going to do a cover. And the four-way.
Oh, okay.
So what had happened was we ended up doing our cover. So we did the Madball cover, and then we we had we didn't have the rights to drop it. So I hit up my boy AK Ray from Northern Hit Squad. Shout out AK, my brother. He kind of directed me as to how to navigate those waters to go about getting the permissions to do the Madball cover. So basically, I hit up Hoya Rock and kind of told him it was out of nothing but utmost respect because, we love that band so much. And luckily, he gave us the blessing, and we got the blessing from Madball to put it out. So we threw a little special something at the beginning of it. While we were doing it, the day we tracked it, my wife and kids came down to the studio to hang out, and Tommy Wood, Mr. T Wood, was like, hey, why don't we get the kids to do something? Fuck, right on. Let's go. So we asked the girls, and we're like, hey, do you guys want to sing on the song? And we went in there, and 15 minutes later, that intro was born. That's how it came out. But yeah, those are my kids, incorporating the family vibe. Like, anybody that knows this band and knows us knows that we're very family. Like, we're family restricted. Everything is family 110% all the way. Like nobody's, if you're cool with us and we're cool with you, you're family. That's the way it works. We don't, we don't consider ourselves to have a whole lot of friends. Like everybody's family. It's just when we see somebody, those are our brothers and sisters, and those are everybody. Those are our people, and that's it.
That's it's a beautiful thing, dude. It's one of those things I was so excited to hear it first and foremost because I mean it's two of my bands that I extremely fuck with, and having something being the cover, and then that being the first thing, and I'm hearing little kids doing a chant part. I'm like, oh my God, what is happening here? Like, this is sick as fuck. And then it's your kids. I'm like, dude, that is absolutely amazing. It's not to say I have like a specific example, but there's every once in a while where you have, bands or something that want to take everything seriously and they want to have da da da. When it's like, for instance, if a little kid said something about wanting to, like jump on, or they were in the studio and like, hey, can I do something? Like, no, leave this to dad. I love that you embraced, the fact of them being in there and, adding that little spirit, to it. It added just that much more of an ingredient. That and the breakdown at the end where I was like, oh boy, oh Lord, a beautiful, a beautiful pizza pasta, if you will.
Thanks, thanks. Yeah, no, I mean, my kids are just as involved. Like 99.9% of the time when riffs are being written or when we're recording or jamming or anything, like we practice here at our house. So like we just call it the Rust House, and everybody comes over and we'll jam for a bit. Then we come upstairs and hang out with the kids. Then we go downstairs, jam for a bit.
Cool.
Like it's just one big like melting pot here in the house. Like everybody just kind of, I wouldn't want to be in a band with anybody else. The guys that are with us now, me and Rick obviously being brothers, I mean, our families are super tight, and him and I are best friends. Like, so that kind of ties in. Then we got our best friend Tommy, then we got our best friend Matt. So everybody kind of together really just fucking, I wouldn't want to be in a band with anybody else because they share the same core values that the rest, that, Rick and I do, and which is very important to us. Like, it definitely, it makes for the best family dynamic, and it makes, it's just good. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's sweet, man. That's awesome. I did want to make mention on one last thing here as far as with the four-way split with you guys. You had mentioned, as far as with having Nihilist and Spineless, Spineless being a song that you had fully wrote yourself. You'd mentioned in some of our conversations. Tell us about that, and what was it something that kind of with the times up, how when you went in the studio it changed quite a bit from the original skeleton of it, or how did that all work out?
So the four-way split, Tommy had written Nihilist, and then I had written Spineless. And we kind of, when it came time to do the split, we were writing music for it, and we were trying to make, a little bit more of like a darker kind of edge to it. Like we kind of wanted to stay the way we were staying, but like kind of improve. Like how do we kind of improve on Time's Up? And it kind of took like this darker turn, I want to say. So Spineless was a song that I had written, and it was more, I wanted to write something that was a little more, still kept that groove, but something that had, a little bit more of a minor kind of feel to it. And then Tommy had sent over Nihilist. And when we started working on those, neither one of them, Rick and I we did a rendition of Nihilist, just the two of us, and it didn't really pop. So once we got to the studio, everybody kind of put their 2 cents in on both songs, and Nihilist didn't change a whole lot, neither did Spineless. It was actually two very organic songs that we just, a couple of riff changes in Spineless towards the end, and then a couple of riff changes in Nihilist, but for the most part, like everything stayed kind of bare bones the way it was when they were both written. So it was it worked out pretty good. Like the tracking wise was all right, and it's, this time around, these new songs here, like Rick sent some fucking heaters. And there's not really a whole lot changed with what Rick had written, because he just did such a great job. Like he did such a great job on them that we just left them. Like, fuck, these are perfect. Let's just leave them.
Okay.
So it's just the way that we write, everybody contributes, everybody does their shit. Like I wrote the majority of Spineless, but when it came down to it, the other two had just as much of a final say. Okay. And same thing with Nihilist. Like we kind of all, decide what goes where and what fits into what. So it kind of worked, Spineless just worked out that we didn't change a whole lot. Nihilist, we didn't change a whole lot. We generally, the new songs, we didn't change much with those either. And it's kind of, yeah, our whole process just seems to be getting tighter. I think the more familiar we get with each other, the easier it is now where I can write something and I know right away whether those guys will fuck with it or not, and vice
Oh,
versa.
okay. Nice. Nice.
So I won't send them something where I'm like, hey, check this out. And it's like a country riff, So I won't do that.
Yeah. No, it's funny too because it was one of those things where after Time's Up, I was like, I wonder what's gonna come after this. Like, I wonder what it's gonna be. Like if it's something because sometimes every once in a while dynamics change a little bit, and there's different things where you're like, I really dug this, but then all of a sudden Nihilist and Spineless come out. I'm like, holy fuck. Okay, well, I guess let's see what's going to happen next now after this. Because that clearly didn't happen here. These songs are fucking. Actually, I was such a fan with Time's Up with the EP, and then those two tracks dropped, and I was just like, holy shit. Like, these are even better than that EP, Like, so, I mean, it really excites me as far as a fan and, like, listening wise and kind of getting into that stuff, even just moments at the end. I think it's Nihilist where it's just like the D beat on like the floor tom and the drums, and it just like ends at the end. I'm
That's
like,
that's the thing. Like
fuck
that.
my life, man.
That's Tommy. That's all Tommy rallied. Rick and I at first we were like, I don't know. Like, should we keep it? Like, I don't really know. And then we got into the studio, and Tommy was like, guys, we have to keep this. And then we played it for Nick, our producer, and Nick was like, boys, are you fucking stupid? Like, you guys got to keep this. Like,
Dude.
are you serious? You guys got to keep it. So we were like, all right, so let's record it. So we recorded it, and when we listened to it back, we were like, oh, yeah, that would have been a bad call on our part. It just hit so hard. We were like, all right, cool. Like,
it
worked out
knocks
really
into
good.
one of those moments where it's almost like a horror movie that doesn't show too much, or a movie in general that doesn't show too much, but it shows just enough where it's like it keeps you biting, it keeps you wanting like a next chapter to it. When that part came in, I was expecting it to like blow up into this huge like breakdown after some slower part, and it just ends, and I'm like, God damn it.
Oh yeah, and we were like,
but it complements the part, so it's perfect because it doesn't give you too much. It makes you want even more, and it's like, so I mean, it was a good move. There's lots of times where you have those instances at first you're like, man, I wish it went further, and then you listen to it again and it's like, nah, that was the right move. So yeah, I love that for sure.
That definitely worked out in our favor. And I'm not going to say there's not parts like that coming up in future songs, but
Oh,
never
so
know.
sick, so sick.
Yeah, I know that's definitely. I mean, playing it live, like the crazy thing about it is that we recorded it in the pandemic. Like we weren't on lockdown at the time, so we were good, and we were able to go to the studio and get them recorded, but we didn't get to play shows for them. So no one's been able to see them live, right? So literally when shows come back, when we get back out there, 90% of our set is stuff that people have listened to or will have listened to, but we haven't played live yet. So it's really
man.
We got a couple. We changed a couple of the songs. Like there's some changes in Nihilist and Spineless that we started doing for the live versions. That I think when people hear it, they're gonna lose their fucking mind. I think it's really gonna be the jaw dropper moments. There's some really cool shit we did.
Sick. That rules. That is awesome. But I can't wait anymore. I'll stop so that we can get to that point to hearing this new track here in a little bit. But I wanted to ask too really quick as far as you had another band you play guitar in, Die Alone. First off, tell me about that cover art. Ripping ass. You mentioned playing with Backtrack. It's exactly what it reminds me of. It's like this killer, goofy ass bundle of fucking monsters here, but totally ripping. What was the inspiration with that?
So Die Alone basically, Die Alone was a project that Connor and Kian had started from Born Without Hope. They had started working on that while Born Without Hope was writing what would have been a drop for Upstate Records. And so that project was already in the works. Like they had shown me some demos. They were kind of doing it on the side. It was just supposed to be a side gig, and then it ended up being Born Without Hope had split, and they kept moving with Die Alone, and they realized they wanted a second guitar player, so they called me obviously and asked me if I wanted to do it, and there I am. So basically, when it came to the cover artwork, like I I love those boys. You know, we write well. We write really well together. I got some Born Without Hope demos that never made it to record, unfortunately, that I had worked on with them that were really, you know, whether we'll use them for Die Alone songs, I don't know, but they're, you know, I have a good writing relationship with them, and they're amazing people. You know, got to give it up to the boys, and got to give it up to Chris as well from Born Without Hope. He's still, you know, still a brother to me, and that band was awesome. We did some really cool stuff together, and you know, maybe one day Chris and I will be able to do something together. Like, I just like playing music with everybody.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I love
Hell
playing
yeah.
music. But Die Alone, literally, when it came to the cover art, when it comes to the cover art, when it came to the songs, when it came to everything, that was Connor, Kian, Yoshi, and Bobby 100%. They fucking nailed those songs. The cover artwork was done by a guy named Jay Ruggs out of Buffalo, New York, and he's fucking phenomenal. So shout out to
Sick.
him because he's dope as fuck. And yeah, that was literally all them. I set up the studio for them, so I got them hooked up with our boy Nick at Schoolhouse and kind of facilitated, got them all hooked up into that. And then Rust actually went in there and did all the gang vocals.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so we all went in there and did the gang vocals. So my major contribution to the whole EP was I did some screams on
Yo,
some
gangs.
songs. That's about it. Gangs on it. But yeah, so Connor and I are actually tossing ideas back and forth now for the next round of Die Alone stuff, and we're stoked to get back to jamming and stoked to get. I want to play these songs live. I think these songs are going to be phenomenal live. I think this band is really going to hit. I'm stoked for it. Yeah, for sure.
Hell yeah. I love that. You got to tell me as far as what's the quote in the beginning of Nothing Left? Is that from the prophecy?
I think it's from the Prophecy or it's from True Romance.
Is it Christopher Walken?
It is Christopher Walken. I think it's
Okay.
from True Romance. I'm
Oh,
pretty sure. I'm like
okay.
99.9% sure it's from True Romance.
Okay. Okay. I don't think I've ever seen that movie, so I guess
Great movie.
I wouldn't.
Great
Is it
movie.
what the hell is that? I guess
It's
I don't know.
it's an old '90s movie. It's Quentin Tarantino wrote it, so it's a Tarantino type flick with Christian Slater and Patricia Arquette. So basically, Christian
What?
Slater, yeah.
How the fuck have I not seen this?
Oh, it's amazing. So Christian Slater's like a loser type dude, just down on his luck, and he meets a woman, and turns out she was a prostitute, but they fall madly in love, and then it just fucking spirals. Like this movie just gets wild. It's such a sick movie. Great movie.
Weird. Wow. Okay. Well, shit. I'm gonna have to check that out tonight for sure.
Great movie to watch. Yeah, it's a great movie. If you like Tarantino type flicks, it's sick.
I do. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and that's good. You know, kind of segue here for us talking about some movies as well. You and I kind of dig into some horror movies, and that's kind of where the interest, and friendship with us started here. Let me start off with asking, as a young man, as early on in watching, some horror movies, tell us about. Did you ever have any irrational fears that may have developed from, watching some of these things? Just goofy shit that you really didn't need to worry about, but, might have popped up from something you saw in a movie.
So, anyone watching this that knows me, Jaws, motherfucker. Jaws scares the fuck out of me to this day. I will not fucking, I don't swim. I will not fucking, nope, nothing. I'm fucking terrified of fucking Jaws. When I was a kid, my old man told me Jaws was real and that Jaws lived in his uncle's backyard. Scared the fuck out of me forever. Like forever, forever, forever. And then years later, we ended up talking about it. Me and him were talking about it one night, and I was like, "Motherfucker, you ruined my life with that fucking movie." And he was like, "Listen," he goes, "I wasn't lying." So his uncle lived in Martha's Vineyard when they shot Jaws. So Jaws was filmed in his backyard, literally. So I'm
Holy
like,
shit! No way.
yeah. So like, what he told me as a kid that scared the fuck out of me turned out to be like a real thing. Yeah. Like Jaws was filmed in their backyard.
Damn! No fucking way. That is insane. Is
Yeah,
that
so wild.
that's not New York, right? Where the
No,
hell
it's
is
in
that?
Martha's
South
Vineyard is
Carolina?
No, Martha's Vineyard is in Jesus Christ. Is it in Mass? Something like that.
Is it okay? I knew it was East Coast, but I was trying to.
It's in East. Yeah, it's on the
Holy
East
shit,
Coast.
that is
Yeah,
insane.
yeah, that's where Jaws was filmed. Jaws was filmed in Martha's Vineyard. Yeah.
I mean, so like,
So
did he ever say that he was like being like vindictive and saying that he was he trying to scare the shit out of you, or was he just
oh
saying like,
yeah, no,
oh
no,
yeah,
for
that,
real.
oh.
He thought he could scare the fuck out of me. So like, yeah, that's bad. So like, fast forward years later, I started working on a horror movie half sleeve that I was getting done, and I needed a piece for behind my elbow. There he
Oh
is.
yes,
I
fuck
can't
yes,
see it.
dude.
I thought it would help me get over my irrational fear. I was like, maybe this will help get over my irrational fear. The whole time I got it done, I couldn't look at the fucking picture. I couldn't fucking look at it after it was done. Oh yeah, no.
Dude,
It's
it's I mean I'm right there with you, my baby. I've got my this
see,
actually started all of mine. Wabam. You know, that started all my horror movie tattoos right there, dude. Old
worst part
Jaws.
is I've seen that movie more times than I can fucking count, and I can recite it
Totally.
from opening scene to end credits. Like, to watch that movie, it's amazing. My kids got into sharks a little while ago, so I had to suffer through it and show them what it was like.
Yeah, no, definitely. I absolutely love that. You know, I have something that goes along with that. My neighbors behind me, they had this pool, and I remember it was when I was still relatively young, and I remember telling my parents that I had to have like goggles so that I could see under the water just in case there was something I wasn't seeing from above. Like
For
Jaws,
real.
literally, I mean, that movie fucked me up as well. So I mean,
You gotta
I
think
love
about
hearing
it.
somebody else talking about that.
You gotta
I
think
love
about it, right? You're on a body of water. You're about this big. There was something this big underneath your fucking feet.
it.
Like, are you fucking serious right now?
Yeah,
Like, the
yeah.
cover of that movie destroys my life. I can't fucking, just because, like, how real is that though? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Well,
you're
you look at like some of the clips you see on like Instagram or like on YouTube or something where it's like somebody on those paddle boards and there's a fucking whale, you know, like the person's like this and there's like a whale or something underneath them. It's like
that's what I'm
that's
saying.
my worst nightmare. I'd die of a fucking heart attack.
Immediately. Like, there's no way. Like, no way. Not even fucking close. I was in Vancouver, and I went on a walk with one of my aunts along a pier, and we walked out, and it like kind of stretched out a bit, and then like overlooking the ocean. Beautiful fucking sight. I would not step foot on that fucking dock though. No way. Are you crazy? I've seen Jaws. I know what happens when when that shit breaks. I'm not stupid. Or in Mexico, I went to Mexico, and the closest I got to the water was like 700 yards. I'm like, fuck that. I don't think so. Not a chance.
That is so funny. Holy shit. All
Oh
right.
yeah,
I
there's
love that. I love that.
people standing on rocks and the waves are hitting them. They're all laughing and shit. And I'm like, yeah, wait till fucking Sharky's here. What are you guys doing? Get the fuck off of there.
Oh my god. You like taking other people's fun and like excitement personally and shit. Like, yeah, you just wait, motherfucker. You think it's
Yo,
fun
for
now.
real though, you're gonna fall. Some motherfucker's gonna come, and literally you're gone, and that's the end of your. That's the end. Why? Because you want to just fuck around on rocks? What's wrong with you? Stop it there.
I hope you're not
Oh
looking
yeah,
at me to save you because I can't even fucking swim. I never learned how. Shit. No, thank
wild
you.
shit. Yeah, I know. Terrified, terrified. Just like
uh,
Pennywise, I guess for some kids in the sewers, some kids are terrified of sewers because of Pennywise and whatnot. Like,
but
I
see,
don't know.
even that is even more irrational because it's like there's not really going to be, or there shouldn't be somebody that's going to be in a sewer. You know, it's like I can step out in water and actually see a fucking shark that is
Yeah, that could.
4 times as big as I am that can swallow me whole. You know, it's
Oh
like
yeah, that shit could happen for real.
yeah,
And then you get to the
that's
fucking.
there.
Then you walk by a sewer and you're like, motherfucker, there's no clowns down there.
You know,
My
it's you
kids
know.
now. My kids love Pennywise. They fucking he rules his house. They love him. And we
You know what?
walk by sewers and they fucking look and they try and see if he's there.
You know what's funny is the weekend that the remake of It came out, my wife and I went and saw it in theater, and we were driving back home, and there was literally red balloons tied to all the sewer markers.
Yeah, it was
Uh,
like that up here too. Apparently, it was part of like some promotional thing because it was shot up here in Canada, and
oh, really?
apparently,
No.
yeah,
Oh,
and,
yeah. That's right. You sent me pictures of being
yeah,
around
yeah,
all this
yeah. I
shit.
got
Yeah.
to, yeah. My brother, me and Rick went and checked it out. We got to go see the fucking location. And he showed me like where the theater was, and like, man, what a fucking
So
trip.
sick.
It was so dope. I was like, I mean,
Yeah.
Pennywise for me is like, I got two icons in my life, like horror wise, that just will stick with me forever. One is my boy Tim Curry,
Well, okay. I see
and
him.
the other one is Leatherface, obviously, because iconic
Nice.
fuck. But yeah, like being on the set of the remake was just too fucking wild. Like I was
Yeah, that's
all
sick.
day, like, oh my
Right.
god.
But it was one of those things where like we were driving home and like I had to look my wife in the eye and be like, "Tell me you saw that fucking balloon right next to the gutter." Like that was not just something I just made up, right? Just, no. So thank God, and it makes sense. I mean, but because it was opening weekend, it was literally the opening day that we went and saw it. But I was just like, people don't do shit like that around here. Like cool shit like that doesn't fucking happen in like the small town that I'm in. So it's like it was really weird, but yeah, it exists.
Cool to see. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So now your interests, you've mentioned before with like 80s and 90s horror movies, talking with that. And the first thing that comes to mind is the old video stores. What were some, scanning the aisles, what were some movies that stuck out from the old poster art or maybe even, the VHS cover art that were too cool not to pick up? Oh, shit. Yes.
My
So
favorite,
sick.
one of my favorite movies of all time.
I love it.
I
Love it.
remember seeing the front cover of that movie in the video store, and we had actually, my old man had owned it, and yeah,
Oh,
growing up,
nice.
I mean, again, growing up, so we had a very metal household, and our old man had a love for horror movies. Unlike, we grew up very unconventional in that way, where, first movie, my introduction to Freddy was, I was 5 years old. First time I saw Friday I was six, and then it spanned into
Damn.
like Hellraisers and like all Rawhead Rex and a lot of really obscure movies. And then once I kind of got a little bit older,
Right, right.
dude, wild, right? So
Oh
funny
my
story.
God.
Rick and I actually caught the 4K screening of Rawhead Rex here in Hamilton at some busted ass fucking theater house. They were showing it, and Rick called me and he was like, "Yo, you want to go see Rawhead Rex like in front of a screen?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Come on." He's like, "Let's go check it out." I was like, "All right, like let's go check it out." And we were like laughing the whole way. We were like, "Fuck, there's no way anybody." Motherfucker theater was packed. Like motherfuckers rolled out for this
Wow.
movie, and I was like, "What? It's one
Why?
of the
Yeah.
worst movies ever made." It's so bad, it's amazing, but like, what?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right, right.
motherfuckers rolled out for it. So like
Damn,
that,
okay.
even that, like that cover art, oh, the Blob, the '80s remake of the Blob with Kevin Dillon, starring Kevin Dillon's
So
hair,
good.
because that hairstyle is out of fucking control. Like, oh my god, that movie is the best. Kevin Dillon had some hair; it was awesome. But yeah,
Killed it.
like the front cover of that, that was fucking Slumber Party Massacre, where just the drill bit and like man, the '80s cover art movies, you just couldn't. The old Vestron videos like Ghoulies 2 and even Ghoulies, like the front covers of that, Demonic Toys. Holy fuck! Like even The
So
Exorcist,
good.
point, right? The Exorcist is just one of those iconic movie covers where you see it and you're like, oh fuck, like
Right.
something bad's happening in that fucking house. Motherfucker's got a briefcase. Let's see what's up. Like dude just got out of a taxi with a briefcase. He's going into that house to do something,
Yeah. He had to pay for that taxi. There's
right?
issues going on.
And then you got, of course, the iconic, the Maniac cover art. That cover intrigued
Yes.
me more than 90% of the movies that I watched, just because it was, waist down, motherfuckers holding a scalp and a bloody knife. Like, what is this? And then you watch it and
Insane.
you're like, all right, I get it. Like that shotgun scene, like Tom Savini, you're a fucking genius, because that is like for gore, top notch. Like, I mean,
I, you fast forward to now 2021 and think of some of the scenes that have topped that fucking scene from what is it 1978
yeah,
or 81 or some shit like that. I mean like late 70s early 80s. Okay, so this is fucking 30 some 40 some years ago, and there's not a whole lot out there that is still going to be able to top that fucking scene. Just
no,
disgusting.
there's so
Gross.
many, like so many scenes back from the '80s. I mean, the closest I don't know. Did you ever see the remake they did with Elijah Wood?
I saw. I want to say the majority of it. I don't think I finished it.
Great. It's such a great movie. But there's a scene in there that's pretty
Really
fucking, yeah, yeah. It was great. It is great.
weird. Wow.
Elijah
Okay, I'll have
Wood.
to go back and watch it. I don't.
Elijah Wood did a great job. But there's a particular scene where Elijah Wood peels the wig back, and it's, man, like, in my opinion, it's just as good as the first time I saw that shotgun scene. Like, I was like, what the fuck did we just watch? And me and my wife rewound it like fucking 50 times because I was like, there's no way that just happened. Like, there's no way. And it did.
Weird.
Oh yeah,
Wow. Okay.
yeah, yeah, it's a sick
Yeah,
scene.
I've never finished it all the way through. I know I saw because it was a first person one, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is kind of hard.
Okay.
Like, it was kind of weird at first to get used to. Like, I was kind of, we
I mean,
kind of
I
had
don't
a bit
hate
of a
that.
hard
It was
time,
just
but
something about
then
the movie I wasn't falling into. I wasn't digging it. But I'm gonna have to go back and check it, my doggy. You're my dude, and I respect what you got to say. So I'm gonna have to go and
no,
check it
it's
out.
a yeah, it was a good. I mean, for a remake, it was no Texas remake or anything like that, but it's still, it did a pretty good job.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I like that. Now, you had mentioned Creep Show. Let me touch on that a little bit as far as, you've also mentioned, an interest in anthologies. Let's just say three of your favorite stories. What comes to mind as far as three of your favorite short stories in any anthology horror movies?
Whoa, three? Father's Day from Creepshow, number one. That just fucking. That takes the literal.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it takes the literal cake. Like, the first Ed Harris's dancing in that short alone is worth a watch. Like, it's fucking perfect. Because you would never
Yeah.
picture, Mr. fucking Ed Harris, I'm in The Rock with Sean Connery, dancing like that. There's no fucking way. Never
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's funny.
That one was super good. And then I also really got into the first short, the first short in Tales from the Hood, the police brutality,
Oh yeah,
the
yeah,
rip on
yeah.
the Rodney King one. That one, I feel I was really young when I watched it, and it just kind of helped fuel that. I mean, I was young when the LA riots happened. Like,
Mhm.
I was relatively young, but I remember watching the LA riots on TV, and I grew up very focus forward when it came to stuff like that. So when Tales from
Mhm.
the Hood came out and that short happened, I was like, this is fucking perfect.
Right,
Like,
right.
man, this motherfucker's getting them back. Like, this is
Yeah.
perfect. I loved it. Like, that was a great short. And then I'd have to go with the Hitchhiker from Creepshow too, because that fucking left some memories in my fucking, that burned some shit in my skull. Like, the Thanks for the Ride lady is just fucking wild. Like, that whole dude is fucking crazy. Like, that was a good scene. So yeah, I'd probably pick those three.
Nice. I love it. I was actually in Pittsburgh. They were supposed to be doing this like horror convention at the oh my God, why can't I think of it now? At the Dawn of the Dead Mall, the Monroeville Mall.
Oh, okay.
They were doing like a big old like horror convention there, and me and a couple of buddies went out there, and they were doing a late night showing of Creep Show 2, and then what was the other one? I can't remember what the other one was. It was some fucking Dead Time Stories. That was the other one. But
Nice.
Creep Show 2, plays, and it gets to the Thanks for the Ride lady. It was like everybody that's out there. It's fucking, I don't know, 11:30 because it was like a drive-in. It was like a big, huge screen that they had playing like as like a drive-in, like showing. And everybody's fucking like quoting it, like "Thanks for the ride, lady," yelling, fucking drinking and shit. So
Yeah,
that'll
that would
that'll
be
be one
dope.
of
That
my
would be
one of my
dope to
favorite
see.
memories of that movie. Yeah.
Even Dead Time Stories, man. That kid in the cage, the whole Hansel and Gretel type vibe of that movie. Like, that's a great movie too. Like, there was
Yeah.
anthologies,
It's
man.
cool
The
shit.
80s and 90s had some good anthologies. I'm kind of stoked. Like, they're kind of bringing it back. Like
Hmm.
Tales of Halloween and Trick or Treat, the mortuary.
Yeah, dude, the mortuary collection is
Yeah.
sick. It
Like,
rules.
they're slowly bringing them back. Like, Southbound was really good too. Like, they're
Yeah,
starting to get
yeah.
more anthology kind of movies in there, which is like, you can't go wrong with the shorts. Like, they're just short to the point. You get in, you get out, and then you move on to the next story. Like, anthology movies are perfect that way, where you're not, you don't have to worry about over dragging something. by
Right.
too much. Right?
Yeah.
So kind of.
Sometimes you don't want a 3 hour investment. You know what I'm saying? You just kind of want to come in, have a good time, and a couple of kernels of popcorn, and get on out of
That's the
there.
thing, right? Like I don't know. I love the anthologies for that reason. Like that and slashers because you can't beat a slasher ever.
Totally, totally. All right, give us three scenes, and as far as any horror movies, maybe even outside of horror movies, three scenes that are forever ingrained in your brain. You know, whether they were just disgusting, shocking, terrifying, or plain unforgettable.
Uh, wow, there's so fucking many. Well,
Shit that just sticks in your head.
my first and my favorite is actually from the Texas Chainsaw remake when Leatherface first shows up and drags that dude back into the back behind the fucking the steel door, and then he slams the steel door shut. To me, that's like, oh fuck, so badass. I don't know why. It just that sticks in my brain forever. Like I love that scene. Such a great
Dude,
scene.
for a recent movie, when he comes out and he's got the boyfriend's face on his face,
Wild, right? Like,
chilling. Like straight up. I have fucking goosebumps saying that. Seeing that in
dude.
theater, I was like, holy fuck, that is terrifying.
Oh yeah,
It was way scarier than it should have been.
Oh yeah, that movie, like, as far as remakes go, I feel like that one set the standard. When they started remaking all the classics, like that one set the bar so high that everything else just failed. Like I can't, Blast House.
What'd you think of The Hills Have Eyes?
I loved that remake. The whole take on the Chernobyl thing, where they went into the whole like the nuclear town, and that whole take was really, really sick. Like I really liked what they did to it.
I actually thought that was better than the original movie.
It was like,
some people have whatever to say. Fuck,
that
dude.
gore aspect was fucking top. Like at the end of that movie, oh my god, when she goes nuts and goes out, oh my god, perfect. Oh,
so sick. So I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. Okay, so you had the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. What else
Texas
you got?
Chainsaw, Reverend Kane from Poltergeist 2. Because when he shows up in the rain, and he's singing that fucking song, like, I won't let no Jehovah come to my door now. Are you are you crazy? Like, no Reverend's coming to knock on my door. There's no way. That movie, yeah. Reverend Kane is badass. Like, so Poltergeist 2 was a sick movie. Like, just because of him. Like, it was just so perfect.
I love it.
And then for a third scene, I would probably, most terrifying, hands down, would be when Josh flips the boat and bites that dude in half, and his leg is just fucking floating down to the bottom. Like, no, no, thank you. I'm good.
Totally agree. I was hoping that you were gonna say anything from Jaws just because there's so many. But
there's so many. But that one, like the first time I saw that, I was like, oh no, like shit got real. Like I think the scariest part about that movie too is that you don't see him right away, and that's the first time you see him.
Yeah.
And then when you do see him, and he's coming in on that angle, you're like, what the like? They kind of that bird's eye view really puts it in perspective how fucking big he is. Yeah. And you're like, oh, okay. And then you fast forward to like Jason Statham fighting a Meg. Like you're like, get the fuck out of here. I'm not scared of sharks. I'm just scared of Jaws. Like the Meg. I mean, that movie was a joke. Like my kids love that movie. Like I don't understand it. And then there's so many other movies, you got like Martyrs, and there's, if you get into that whole other side, like that French cinema side with High Tension and Martyrs, and man, there's some real shit to unpack there too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just recently I rewatched I watched Frontiers too, but I watched Inside. You ever watch that one?
Crazy movie. Both of those movies are fucked.
Grueling, absolutely. Like.
Them.
Yeah, and it was, I had the opportunity to be able to speak with and interview Xavier Gens, who did Frontiers, and it's just like, I'm just trying to sit here and talk to this guy and kind of like look into, like just a plain old nice normal dude. But it's like, holy fuck, man, some of the stuff that you put on film is horrifying.
Well, yeah, like, how would you make that? Like that, that movie was...
Have you ever heard of, oh man, now I'm probably zoomed in on my fucking face trying to look over at my movie shelf, but I'll have to send you a message. Oh, fuck. The movie The Divide. Have you ever heard of that movie?
The Divine?
the Divide, like a
Is
being
that the one with the
divided.
underground? Is that the one with the underground bunker?
Yeah.
I think who's in it? Is it Michael Biehn that's in that movie?
I don't know anybody that's in it. I know the same guy that made Frontiers, that Xavier Gens, he directed that.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my
But
God.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's there's like a bunch of it's an underground bunker, but there's a bunch of cannibals or something running in there, right?
Um,
Are they like zombie type things? There is a movie called The
that's
Divide
fr-
like
that's
that.
Frontiers, I think.
No, there's Frontiers is like that. There's another movie called The Divide too with Michael Biehn. Maybe I haven't seen the one that you have though.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I'll have to send you a link to it because
Absolutely.
they're caught in an underground bunker after like their country or city gets attacked, bombs and shit going off, and then it just becomes a thing where kind of cabin fever is setting in over all of this time, and different people are kind of becoming type A personalities and trying to see who's going to be top dog, and people start getting pimped out, and it's fucking insane. It's rough. It's a rough watch, but I mean, it was one to watch maybe once.
I, that's kind of like, yeah, I have a lot of movies like that I'll watch like just once. Like I have some movies that I bought and I haven't even like I watched them like online or whatever, bought it, and now it's just sitting there. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
for what it's worth to anybody watching, I do own a Serbian film. Like,
Oh
never,
no.
never watched it. Like I've watched it, but like they released it in the States, so it was more like a collector's edition, like more or less like for an
Okay.
underground kind of thing. So I got it, and it's never been opened. I still like it's still
Mm-hmm.
wrapped. Like I'll never fucking. It's just sitting on the shelf. Like I'm like,
Oh,
yeah,
right.
I don't know. But there was two versions of that movie that were released. There was one that I'm sure everybody saw with the certain scenes that everybody knows about that aren't really, And then there was this version that they said was the uncut, unrated version, but they scale the one part pretty much to nothing, so it's implied but not really shown.
Mm-hmm.
And then the
Yeah.
ending too is implied but not shown. So as far as a movie wise, I've heard it's a more cohesive watch where everything is implied, so it just makes for, you know, still a certain type of movie for a certain type of person, but like it's downplayed enough where it's not like the one that everybody could get on the internet, which was like the one that I saw, which was like, what the fuck did I just watch? Like I'll never unsee this movie again. Like, but yeah,
Right.
I own a lot of really a lot of obscure movies like that. That you kind of pick up at conventions that you find, throughout they're more just collector's items, and eventually, that stuff, tends to resell for a lot. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't plan on ever watching it again, but somebody else might be looking for that because they only made a certain amount of them or whatever. And, it
Right.
kind of gets you into the horror community too, where you start trading and, doing shit like that. So, but
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
I have a
I mean,
lot.
it's no judgment whatsoever, from like my end. I think we've had like the conversation about that too, and it's just kind of one of those
Oh
things
yeah.
where, as far as my personal interest, I think I just kind of have a line where I start seeing certain things, or if I hear certain things, it's just like, well, I don't even like. If you ever have you ever heard of the movie Salo, 120 Days of Sodom?
You know what? So I, I was, my brothers and I did this thing years ago where we were looking for, we were trying to outgross each other. Because we all grew up the same way. We all like the same kind of movies. So we were like, let's see what we could find that would really push that fucking envelope. And that was one of the movies that we watched. And it was like, really? Like, this is like the most pointless movie ever made. Like it really it served no purpose to anybody whatsoever other than the point to be like if you want to watch like if you actually enjoy that movie, I mean, no judgment, but like I don't know too many people that enjoyed that movie and the people
Yeah.
that did are kind of interesting. Like there's certain movies like that like you're right? Like a lot of movies like that are just not worth, I think the more intriguing part about it is when you get into movies like that is what's it's kind of like Baskin. Like Baskin was like that. Baskin was heralded as like this fucking insane, like you're gonna fucking lose your mind if you watch this movie type of thing. And I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was a great movie. Like
I love Baskin.
it had its, twists and turns and stuff, but like that was like when you're looking for something extreme, like that's the avenue I would prefer to go down.
Yeah.
And instead, when people recommend movies, they put you down this route.
Right.
Like some people
Right.
like there's a lot of like the Velvet Underground movies,
Mm-hmm.
like those kind of things where it's like the first person wannabe snuff film, like all that stuff is just like why.
Yeah.
Do you
Or
hope?
like the August Underground's Mortem.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah, August
remember back in
Underground.
the
Sorry.
day, I paid $57 or some shit for one of the DVDs, and I got it. And I'm just like, they're torturing like a pregnant lady or something. I'm just
Yeah,
like,
and it's like, what's the
this isn't what I want in horror. Like this isn't what I'm looking for.
no, like what do you
Or
what do you
like
what are you striving
Salo,
for?
yeah, it being like I don't. The thing with like something like Salo is if it was something terrifying, like, okay, for instance, the Holocaust, you have something like Schindler's List, which is one of the best, heralded greatest films of all time, but it was something historically seeing that was so horrifying that, kind of categorizing and having it in a film would be one thing where it's like, oh, okay, I can kind of see the significance behind this being relevant. But something like Salo, which I don't even know necessarily if it was based on a particular time or something so fucked up that actually happened in real life, and then just some of the depictions, with like children and just the rape and different torture. It's too much. I'm not down with it. That's not cool.
That's my thing. When it gets in, when it crosses, the rapey territory and the kids territory. Once it gets into that, like that, I have no regard for anything like that. Like that was kind of, like I remember the first when I did, when a friend showed me a Serbian film, it was like, okay, I know how you feel about this, but like this is a movie that's gonna like fuck your brain up. And I was like, oh, at the time I was like, how bad could it be? You know what I mean? Because you're so used to seeing other stuff where like, you're so desensitized by like slasher flicks and stuff like that, where you're like, honestly, how bad could it be?
Mm-hmm.
And then you watch it and you're like, what the fuck? Like, really? And then, when you kind of read the interviews and stuff like that, like behind, his purpose for making it, like, okay, respects, you were trying to showcase, a certain part of that civilization and whatever. Like, I get that. But, like, did you have to do that? Like, did you have to go that far? Like, is there a reason for that, Like,
right.
It just, a lot of movies just kind of take you into that territory where it's, you're always looking for, like, as a gore hound, right? You're always looking for like, oh my God, what's the grossest thing? Like, what's the next thing? Like you watch like The Thing, and like to me, like that's one of the goriest movies of all time because that gore is just so over the top. You're like, what the fuck? This is amazing. Like, but it's like the dog's face splits open and there's a fucking alien in there. You're like, what the fuck? This is awesome. But like, but you go on this journey where you're like, what's more extreme? What can I find that's crazier than this? How do you top this? But then it takes you somewhere you don't want to go once you start going down that rabbit hole. We found that out real quick. We were like, no, we're going to pull the reins back a little bit. I like my slashers.
Yeah.
I like my anthology movies. I like, monsters and ghosts and ghouls and goblins and, serial killers and, masks and stuff. Like, that shit's cool. Like, I'm going to stick with that.
Yeah.
Like,
it's so funny. I mean, mentioning that because that was kind of the same way, like with me and my friends getting into horror and getting further into it, and finding videos online, and then you get into finding shit of like people actually getting killed or something, actually like horrifyingly happen. It's like I don't want to see that shit. I don't like fucking haunted houses. I don't like real life shit going on. I just want to see some fucking cool effects and some goofy ass monsters popping out from nowhere. A fucking shark growing octopus legs and crawling on land and swallowing people. I don't want to see all this shit that's like really going on. Like there's plenty of that going on. Just watch the fucking news.
Yeah, like there's a line of like the realism horror aspect where it's like, even movies like Maniac and stuff like that, like back in the day, like Maniac broke the mold for controversy because it wasn't, or even the OG Last House on the Left, or Last House on the Left in general, you should say. Those kind of broke the molds because it brought horror into a more real type vibe.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Wes Craven did it in a way where, it wasn't it was very thought provoking and very fucking, in your face, but it wasn't like it is now. Where now, like, they take that aspect and multiply it by a million, where it's like, you thought that was bad, check this out. And
Yeah.
you're like, motherfucker, you're borderline doing this. Like,
Yeah.
stop. Like, really? Like, come on. And then, like, the thing, like, even like Maniac or Last House, right? Like, the endings of those movies, they always get their fucking just desserts, right? So it's kind of, it's a bittersweet type of movie. Whereas those movies, like, there's just no end in sight. You're like, what the fuck? What are you doing? Like, yeah, I own a lot of obscure movies. Most of them I'll never watch again.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them.
All right. On an ending note, kind of bringing this up a little bit higher here. We have this Rust track. We have this clip here. I just want to play a little bit of the clip. Kind of give a little something for people to look into, myself included. So if anything, maybe give us what the song is called, and then let's check out this clip here, my dude.
So this clip is from it's from a track that we wrote. It's called Dying Breed. Still waiting on the artwork. We actually just got the masters back last week. We just got them back. So it's gonna be a new little drop that we're gonna work out. Everything's kind of in the motion now, so we're gonna go a little bigger with this drop. Not quite the full EP treatment, but it will be a couple of songs that hopefully people really fucking get into and dig.
Awesome.
This clip, Dying Breed, is I kind of cut it in a way where it's like, hopefully it'll give you the gist, and hopefully anybody digs it. Like, I don't know. I hope y'all fuck with it. We worked really hard on the songs, so it'll feel good to get them out. And,
hell yeah.
You ready?
Dude, so ready.
Right. So, this is a clip from Dying Breed.
Oh my God. Dude. Look, man, we got to end on this note. I am so fucking excited for that. That sounds so sick. I cannot wait. And I'm going to have this up and uploaded. So, if you want to tell some cats, around that want to hear that new clip, thank you very much for that, dude. This has been absolutely awesome. Thank you for hanging out today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. So cool. I mean, we're always going to be in contact, so this isn't goodbye.
Always.
But yeah.
No. Always,
thank you very, very much for taking your time to do. This has been fucking amazing.
Bro, thank you so much for having me. It was great. Again, shout out all my fam, everybody that watched, everybody that tuned in. Shout out Northern Hit Squad. Shout out Trauma Models. Shout out Trauma Lanes. Shout out anybody that I missed. I love y'all. Eric, you're the fucking man, and hopefully we get to do this again.
Absolutely, buddy. Thank you so much. Everybody, Lo-Fi Horror Guy, my dude Rob from Rust. You take care. Stay safe, buddy.
Take care, bros. Later.
He's a lo-fi horror guy. Yeah, he's kind of a guy, but he is so lo-fi a horror guy. Yeah. Lo-fi horror guy has been recorded in front of a live studio audience.